Hello everybody and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery, sponsored by Channel Fireball, and thanks to you, soon to see me jump into a lake in a merfolk cosplay. So thanks for that.
We already have one picked out. JJ will post a link in the description to show the one that we have
Not
purchased.
exactly.
It's a... What?
Go on. No, I'm just curious to see where this goes, that's all.
It's the one that we agreed upon as a
group.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
It is a full Mara cosplay from the Aquaman movie. Costs roughly $770. It is light blue, turquoise, I believe would be the best.
Why is it a Mara cosplay and not a Aquaman cosplay?
Well, we thought it would fit your body type a little better.
I don't know. I think we're going to go with the Aquaman cosplay costume, guys.
No one wants to see you shirtless, bro.
It's not. I found one with the shirt. I just Googled it.
I believe the vote was 3-1 in favor of this one.
This is a rigged vote.
Would you like me to include our patrons in the vote?
No, I'm just going to drink this beer.
I wonder how that would go. If you don't know what he means by patrons, he means people that go to patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery and give us $1 an episode. Or no, $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode. I've been drinking.
If you give us more, you can drink beer out of glasses like these, though.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the glass that I'm holding up right now. If you're not watching on YouTube, please go to YouTube, like, subscribe, blast that bell icon, just do all the stuff. That's a $0.00.
Keep the YouTube. No. Go to our YouTube channel, hit autoplay, go on the most recent video, and then set up your cookie clicker to farm cookies while the YouTube video autoplays in the background.
That makes the most sense.
You could do that. Yeah. It would give us the full completion thing. The problem is our videos don't run together. You watch one of our videos and you're like, hey, here's a infomercial for the Pocket Fisherman now. It's never like the next video is another one of our podcasts. But if you want to
set up a playlist.
Yeah, you could do that.
Set up a playlist. Put them all. So to give some context here, we were talking about how to be most efficient with Cookie Clicker, and since everyone's computers generally go to sleep, your Cookie Clicker game will turn off. So what I do every night before I go to bed is I put on a YouTube video that is 100 hours of black screen, so that my computer will continue to click cookies for me.
But you go full screen with it, so it doesn't burn in an image into your screen.
No, I don't do that.
Well, you should.
What? Don't like screens made in modern era.
I believe that is true.
I don't know. I'm not going to risk it.
Like you don't have a CRT for a.
You got to risk it for the biscuit, or in this case, the cookies.
All I know is that we definitely burned a pornographic image into the television of one of our roommates when he went on vacation. So that is a thing that can happen.
Wow, you are so old.
That's an old prank. That's like Ding Dong Ditch. Remember that? You remember prank phone calls?
You are ancient.
Kids today don't know about the Jerky Boys, and it's about time somebody reminded them about how you used to feel okay with yourself calling a store and doing a weird Indian accent and being like, oh, this is fine that I'm doing this. It's the 90s.
Okay, boomer.
I'm an elder millennial, sir. I think you'll find.
Yeah, you got in there right under the cutoff.
Yeah,
what is you are demonstrating to the
86 or whatever.
Yeah. You are demonstrating to the world.
Jason and I are like the two opposite ends of millennials because I'm 94.
You are demonstrating to the world why they are too generous with the designation millennial.
Look, man, I was 16 when the new millennium came around. All right, I was wearing Jinko jeans. I was listening to Smash Mouth. I was there. I was participating in the zeitgeist around the turn of the millennium, and therefore I deserve the designation millennial because I was making things happen.
Oh, you deserve it? Okay, boomer.
Yep.
I'm entitled to it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Speaking of entitlement, let's talk about Magic.
Let's talk about the bands and how everyone felt like they were entitled to get the update when they ate lunch and not when Aaron Forsyth ate lunch.
That was interesting. I actually wasn't even aware of that. I did at some point check the website. We were recording on Monday after the bans got announced. Leyline was banned. Oath of Nissa was banned.
Leyline of
Leyline of
what,
Abundance
Corbin?
was banned. For those who don't know,
There
yeah.
you go,
Um, Oath of Nissa was banned, and predictably, Felidar Guardian was banned. So it was interesting. I checked at some point today. I was like, oh, maybe there wasn't an announcement today, but no, I think they just took the day to one, make up their minds, and then two, there's a process of,
They had to write an article.
They have to localize the articles and stuff like that. I imagine they came in this morning, looked at the data from the weekend because there was an NRG Pioneer event. I'm not positive what won it. I do know that there were several mono green or green devotion decks. Oko was involved in at least one of them, so not just mono green, but green devotion. So I imagine they wanted to take that, look at the weekend of Magic Online results, and make up their minds. At which point they then had to write an article, and at which point it then had to be localized across the world for different languages before they could put it out. So that is why we didn't get the announcement until I think it was like 6 p.m. East Coast. So
what, you mean they don't put everything into Google Translate then post it to Twitter like certain professional League of Legends teams do?
I don't know what that's a reference to, but yes, that's what I'm saying. So anyways, I mean, it was pretty clear that something needed to happen. I mean, the cat ban, I think we all knew was coming.
Would you say that there was a cat ban due?
I mean, well, Jerry Thompson brought up an interesting point on Twitter about the possibility of banning Saheeli instead this time, because obviously when the combo was released in Standard, it's really difficult to ban Saheeli when it was the flagship planeswalker of the new set. Kaladesh had just come out, all that stuff. Basically the same reason as Oko, right? Like they really don't want to kill the main planeswalker of the set immediately after its release, and so they banned Felidar Guardian when Aether Revolt came out. And so it was interesting to see the point brought up that you could theoretically ban Saheeli instead to still allow people to do like Panharmonicon-esque shenanigans with Felidar Guardian and try to maintain non-broken strategies that involve just flickering in general. Because Saheeli...
I think that's a reasonable argument. However, I agree with what they said in the banning article that Felidar Guardian is the more likely of the two to break again. And I think that's that restricts design space probably much more than Saheeli does. So I think
I like how they're pretending like they're even going to take anything into account with future design space. Wow. They're like, well, when we do make another gigantic mistake, probably in the calendar year 2019, we don't think it'll have anything to do with Felidar Guardian or Saheeli. It'll probably be an entirely new mistake. 2-mana planeswalker that entirely breaks 5 formats at once.
That costs purple mana and cheats on its own purple mana.
It's hybrid mana, 2-mana planeswalker incoming.
Yep, it's 4 Phyrexian mana, and like it comes into play with loyalty equal to the amount of life you've lost this turn.
I called the Oath of Nissa ban the Wild and Cattle ban of the format. And I want to clarify what that means. I'm not even saying that it's wrong. The mono green devotion deck the green devotion deck was just inherently too powerful, and they thought that banning Leyline wasn't going to be enough. And they also said, and it made sense, of course, that it's too consistent. It allows people too much free filtering and so on. And I mean, in the sense that I think 5 years from now, it's going to look kind of silly that Oath of Nissa was banned, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. Once Upon a Time
is still running around.
Right. Yeah. And that was my tweet. It said, Once Upon a Time is just ridiculous. My thing is, and I'm not going to rant like I did last week, but the same cards get banned over and over again. Sometimes there's just egregious power level cards like Hogak that get banned, but more often than not, it's cards that follow the same lines of gameplay. They cheat mana.
Even Hogak was following the same lines of gameplay. Like, let's print Tombstalker in 2000. Whoa, that card warped Legacy. That's not a mistake. Okay, what do we need for Sultai and Concentarchy? Oh, geez, whoopsie daisy, we did that again. Okay, how about if we let you play it and make you play it for free? Oh God, how did we foresee that?
It's the same card, Yeah, and you're right. Hogak wasn't, but my point was going to be that for all this other stuff, it's planeswalkers that have broken it. Like that deck was broken because it could play Oko if it played blue, but it just had turn 2 Nissas, and that's just absurdly stupid.
Well, turn 2 Nissa specifically is the turn 2 5 mana. There's 3 mana Nissa. That's okay. You can go Llanowar Elf into Nissa Oath of the Gatewatch, whatever, but like it's turned to War of the Spark.
Right,
Nissa.
and the thing is though, we've had powerful ramp for a long time before. We've had Oath of Nissa before, but the problem is the Planeswalkers. The problem is when you play that 5-mana Nissa, not only does it win you the game on its own and more often than not, but even if they do answer it, it's provided a massive advantage. And even if they were to, pithing needle it, it still is going to ramp you into Ulamog or whatnot. The problem is the Planeswalkers. The problem is Narset and Oko. And the problem is how powerful they've made them. So I think that they're learning something here. It's the same things always break Magic. And I don't understand why Once Upon a Time was printed when it falls in the exact same pattern of other cards
Gitaxian
like
Probe
Oath of
is
Nissa.
banned, but
Right.
but,
like,
but
why
a
are we
green free
right.
spell
I
is
just
fine.
I understand that they're pushing Planeswalkers and they're missing on the power level, or Planeswalkers are too hard to interact with, or whatever. But it's just weird that the same types of cards are getting printed that always become problems. I mean, how long is it till Once Upon a Time gets banned? As soon as it rotates out of Standard? I mean, it's just weird. So expect more of this in Pioneer is the point. They said they've been very upfront. They're going to be very aggressive about the bans, which I think is good. And the green deck was very powerful. It's going to be so
exhausting having to pay attention every single Monday for who knows how long, though.
Well, that's why no one's building. I mean, somebody at the store tonight traded me cards. By the way, shout out. We're sponsoring, by the time this podcast comes out, the Mythic Championship will be going on. We are sponsoring Raph Levy. We loaned Raph Levy a deck. How about that? He has a sponsor that we're not going to get into, though we're not trying to compete or anything. However, we loaned him a deck. I believe he's going to give us a shout out on Twitter. Hopefully he wins the event. So if you're looking for a BSB rooting interest, that's your Hall of Famer right there. But somebody was trading me cards tonight and at the store that was using to put together his deck. And they were asking me about Pioneer and what they should build for it and what they should use their store credit towards. And I was like, honestly, my advice is to wait like a month. We don't know what's going to happen. It's one thing to play online where the in and out price on cards is a lot. There's a lot less friction there, right? It's a lot easier. You can have a rental service. A lot of people in Magic Online use one of those. So it's kind of relatively easy to get in and out of decks. And if your deck gets banned, it's not really the end of the world. One, because you knew that was a risk and you're trying to break the format, and hopefully you're renting your cards so that you're not really getting financially hit at all. But for paper, my advice is to just wait. I think Pioneer is sweet. I think it's great. But I haven't put together a deck in paper yet. Not only because we don't know what's going to happen with the ban list, but there are decks that could conceivably be good in 2 months that could be completely unplayable today just because the meta is so much more powerful or whatever, because
because they haven't printed that broken cards yet.
I was just going to say because we have 5 bans to go before we even get to a semblance of a format, right? So we just don't know what things are going to look like. So my advice to everyone is for Pioneer and paper, I mean, get your staples, all of that stuff. But as far as really shelling out money to build a deck, hold off until we've had at least a couple of events or, at least a month, right? Wait until after, wait until Christmas at least to start trying to put money out.
So you're saying that you should have patience when picking up your paper Pioneer cards?
That's what I'm saying.
I think paper Pioneer patience is going to pay off in the long run.
Pay off?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You're going to pay the piper if you're not patient with your paper Pioneer.
There you go. So looking at the Pioneer Challenge over the weekend, we see a lot of the green deck. There's also been some cool decks. I mean, there's cat decks. There's a bunch of Okos just running around. But there was also, I like this one, a mono black vampires list. Gray Merchant .deck. Yep. 4 Sorin Imperious Bloodlords. 4 Champion of Dusk. Drana Liberator of Malakir. I'm not, I'm none of this is, I'm not like, this isn't pick of the week level. I'm just trying to give people some information they may not have had. But Drana is a mythic from BFZ. So that's something to keep an eye on if that seems like a deck you're interested in. I also like Bomat Courier has been showing up on a lot of the red lists. And honestly, I would probably expect it to continue to do that.
The card was a 4 of an event deck, though.
It was. I mean, there's a lot of them out there.
The challenger decks, yeah.
it was a 4 of in like the deck that everyone.
Yeah, because it was
and
the
you know what?
Hazaret one.
If you're looking to get into Pioneer, that Challenger deck takes a really pretty a big bite out of the mono red Hazaret stuff. That gives
Yeah,
you
and
about
the
half
thing
the
is-
cards you need.
Yeah,
in, like,
that's a good point.
stores, if they have that, they're just trying to get rid of those. So like,
Yeah,
No, that's a really good point though. So like I've talked about this before on this podcast, but like when cards spike, it's a very good idea. Instead of just joining the rat race or the hype, trying to buy and compete for those singles on TCG Player and eBay, look if that card was in a sealed product, especially if it was in a sealed product that maintains the original set symbol, like those
Yep.
Challenger decks. So things like Verdant Catacombs being an event deck from 2012 or something like that, and just all these obscure decks like Chainer's Edict being in a Torment precon from the 90s or whatever. Like it's just cards that are in event decks are very, very easy to target. Especially like plane chase decks, commander decks, stuff like that, just because people don't look for those. People aren't thinking of that when the card spikes and everyone's losing their mind. Like Bloodbraid Elf went up and everyone's like, oh my god, I gotta get my playset, it got unbanned, what do I do? And you could buy the plane chase deck on eBay for like $10 for
you were
a
able
week
to
or two.
buy Rat's Nests for cheaper than GTAs, back in the day, and that was my first brush with MTG Finance. And as soon as like I made that observation, which I thought should have been obvious to everybody, it really got me thinking about sealed product and the fact that sometimes it's like, hey, there's a Hazaret and 4 Bomac Couriers and whatever else in this deck.
There's a
yeah.
Challenger in that deck
yeah,
too.
that deck was great. I think it remains to be seen. That limits the ceiling on cards like this, but this is, I mean, without making it sounding like I'm saying an obvious point, Pioneer's a big deal. This is, everybody wants in on this. Everybody wants in on the next Modern. I don't know that just because it's not like it's trying to break into an established format. This thing is wide open, and people are going to be jumping at the next thing over the next 6 months, and they're going to be jumping on whatever the next budget deck is. And I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made in identifying the cards and budget decks that all the money's going to go to. So I think, yes, that the fact that more copies of Bomac Courier exist limits the ceiling on the card, but it also means you're more likely to find them. And it's the kind of thing that could very easily still go to, whatever price from where it is now, because we're going to see big movements.
We need to pay attention to the budget decks, because every budget deck has got a card or two that spills over into other decks. It's something like Kalidas, Trader of Get, which is like $19 right now. It's playable in other decks. So the fact that like it's a 2 of in this vampire list, all of a sudden you got to be like, well, wow, this has Walking Ballista, this has Kalidas. So if this deck does take off, yeah, people aren't shelling too much for 4 Champion at Dusk, but they're going to need Walking Ballistas and Knight of the Ebon Legion, which is making a splash in Standard. So some of that stuff, it's just another axis for some of the stuff that gets put in other decks to get pushed up, even if it starts out in a budget deck. That's cheap because, how much is Sorin Imperious Bloodlord going for right now? $6,
Right.
so 7. So
And this sort of feeds into one of the things I want to talk about is I've been doing a lot of buy listing over the last week, and whenever I go to buy list a card, again, shout out to our sponsor, Channel Fireball, which has a bonus on buy list prices you should check out. But whenever I go to buy
I know
list a card,
I hate that Channel Fireball has a buy list sale that I would sell to anyway, because I feel like a shill.
right?
'Cause I'm like, you should sell to Channel Fireball. Like, you're just saying that because I sponsor you, but like, I would legitimately be selling a channel this week.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, I've been, every time I buy list a card, I pull up the buy list on one page, and then I go to MTG stocks and look at the price trajectory of the card. One, to make sure I'm not selling the card for too low of a percentage, because a lot of times if if a store is offering 40% on a card or whatever, it can sometimes just be a stock fluctuation. Hold on to your card for 2 weeks, a month, and buy list it again, you'll get 60%, right? And for commander type cards that tend to be pretty stable, yeah, that's a super reasonable way to go about your buy listing. But what I've noticed by the result of just looking at a lot of graphs is how many cards are plummeting in price. We're talking about the cards in Pioneer that are going up, but I think one of the interesting things here to note is that money is coming from somewhere. And I don't want to get too deep into correlation versus causation or whatever, but a lot of the drops I saw were so precipitous. I actually reached out to the people running MTG stocks who I've had, conversations with in the past. And I was like, hey, has anything changed in the feed? I'm just seeing giant drops, so like Theros Gods, cards that like Cyclonic Rift. I mean, cards that are never supposed to go down in price. And like, I'm not talking about stabilizing. I'm talking about 20% drops in a month. It's bizarre. And look, there's a lot of reasons. It's before the holidays. There's Pioneer that people want to put their money into. There's a lot of reasons for it. But look, it makes sense to see the bottom falling out of some of the Modern Horizons cards, which is kind of awkward given on this podcast how we talked about Modern Horizons was a great long-term investment.
Well,
et cetera,
I
et
still
cetera.
like the boxes. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think we can be held accountable. I don't think we can be, blamed for them dropping Pioneer on us, right? That was clearly not expected. But the thing is, I get those cards dropping in price, right? I can understand the money coming out of Modern and into Pioneer, but what was shocking to me is how many Commander cards I saw going down. And it's not everything, right? I mean, there's certainly cards going up there's certainly Commander cards going up, right? But I saw big drops on cards that going a couple years back weren't necessary, like just aren't there, right? So, there's a lot to unpack there. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see over the next few months, especially as we get into basically February, March of next year, which is typically when prices in Magic explode. It's one thing we've seen something like dual lands tapering off over the past 6 months, that sort of thing, right? There was a very
it's not
big
just the
run.
dual lands; it's all that reserve list stuff and it's not just the nonsense. People are like, well, Catacomb Dragons is on the reserve list. Let's buy all those.
Yeah,
it's stuff like, Academy Rector. What's the replenish stuff like that?
Yep.
Stuff that everyone was like, well, there was an enchantment EDH deck, and this stuff's reserve list. All the kitty cat buyers said this stuff's a slam dunk, and replenish went to 75, and now it's down to half that. Just like part of it is like, well, there's not that people investing their crypto money in something a little more stable, and the demand wasn't there. It's also just like that stuff was sort of overhyped, and if you didn't sell at the peak, like I did on all my replenishes, RIP, it'll go back up again, but you got to wait till it does.
Well, this is what I think is going to be. That's what I'm saying. This is going to be fascinating because it could be as simple as these cards that, and a lot of those old cards just went on insane runs over the past 18 months. Whether we think, a lot of it was there was probably a very much a non-zero amount of crypto money getting cashed out from the crypto spike and put into Magic cards, which are not taxed by the IRS like crypto event is or was threatened to be, or however that panned out before crypto fell off a cliff. But I mean, there's just so many reasons for the buildup that I don't think it's necessarily concerning that that things are tailing off now. But seeing the Commander cards drop did strike me as a, that's interesting. Not necessarily cause for concern, because we do see prices fall or at least tail off at this time of year. But if we don't see a rebound come February or March, like we typically would see, that's when I start to think, okay, well, maybe this is a sign of at least the explosive growth of Magic over the past few years slowing. If not,
they added 2 new formats in that time period.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot going on. So it's hard to tease out what's noise in the data, what's normal, what's et cetera. But one of the things I see brought up, and this was in, I think, a conversation in the high-end Facebook Magic group, was that the prices on like graded Black Lotuses were falling. And a lot of people were pointing to the economy, a slumping economy. The Fed has had to lower interest rates twice in the past 6 months to try to keep the economy afloat here in the United States. Magic is not immune from the economy. It did very well in the last recession in 2008, as people, basically found games again. But the cards cost a lot more than they did then, comparatively. And I just think we're at a very interesting time in Magic finance here, especially as Arena has come along and given more and more people a way to play that isn't in paper. Just how what we're going to see next year. And I think us as buyers and resellers of all of that, we're going to be fine. It's not, this is not a Magic is dying, but I do think that the market is possibly heading to a place that it hasn't been in a very long time. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on it here, but I started digging pretty deep into it after I noticed drops on cards that scared me. I mean, seeing Cyclonic Rift fall off a cliff seeing Theros gods drop.
Yeah.
That stuff that's bizarre, you know. And I don't know that you can chalk that up to Pioneer.
Well, I mean, people are planning for a coming recession. There was like the talk of the trade war putting tax on Magic cards and stuff like that. There's just a lot of economic uncertainty right now, and I think
I mean, there's also just like
I want to have cash on hand if we're gonna have a recession. I want to be ready to buy people's collections.
I mean, as somebody who sees a lot of data for cards that get sold like en masse more than most people, a lot of it is just that cards hit certain price numbers that make that card too expensive to buy for a casual perspective, and then the card doesn't sell anymore. Like, it's the reason I want Doubling Season to get reprinted a billion times, because like I sell 30 times more Doubling Seasons when the card is 20 than I do when it's 45. Like, the card doesn't sell at 45. Doubling Season, nobody wants to buy it, but like, and nobody wants to buy Cyclonic Crypt 25 either. They look for alternatives. They look for the Flood of Tears or Evacuation or what have you. So when certain cards just hit their individual prices, there's just like this mental block where players say no, and then they
don't want one card that costs half the price of a pre-con if you're making more than one deck a year. I get it.
Like I said,
that's why we like this sets like Battle Bond and stuff like that reprint some of that stuff and bring it down, because we love to buy at the floor, because we're paying buy list prices on a card that's at its floor. And then we know it's going to go back up. But, like, also, people just put this stuff in their decks. They go buy the cards, Yeah,
so I don't want to sound Chicken Little here or whatever, but, something like Nylea dropped 30% in 3 weeks. Nothing like that existed on its graph before. And there were probably a dozen cards I found just in the 400 to 500 cards I buy listed that looked similar. Like I said, I literally thought it was a change in the algorithm given how precipitous the drops were. So I think that it's probably a bunch of different reasons, but it's just something I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about, because we don't talk a lot about the sort of the macro Magic economy. We talk a lot about the micro, the week to week cards, the Pioneer spikes, ban list changes, etc. But I mean, there's a lot more to the market.
Specifically, is also probably because like Theros was announced as a set
2 months ago, not 3 weeks ago.
Well, I mean
also that would make them go up historically.
I don't know why you would, like, historically they don't reprint stuff, so like I don't know why it would.
That stuff always goes up. Yeah, that stuff always goes up. We see Awakening Zone jump when they announce Battle for Zendikar or Battle for Eldrazi come back, right? It's not to me that's not a thing that lives there. But I am willing to accept that there are a lot of Magic cards for sale, and I've looked at a sample size of a couple hundred, right? So it could just be confirmation bias at some point, right? So it's something I want to talk about, because specifically I wanted to talk about sort of the larger impacts on Magic of the economy, because it's basically, we've been doing this podcast for 8 years. So we've never done the podcast during a recession or even a time of slowing growth. So, when the tide is rising at an incredible pace, it's really easy to pick a boat and be right. It gets a lot more interesting if you start to see a lot more pushback to the market in general. So interesting time for Magic Finance, that's for sure. Of course, this is what everyone says every year when they notice something, and then come March, all the prices blow up again and we're back off to the races. So we'll find out. All right, you guys ready for Breaking Bulk?
Breaking Bulk time. Breaking Bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
What's that, Corbin? What's
Exodus Uncommon?
I was doing a bit, but
artifacts.
like Exodus Uncommon Artifact is probably Chromatic Sphere.
No, that's Invasion.
Yeah, I was thinking the Invasion symbol.
That was Invasion.
Oh, Exodus is the bridge. Uncommon Artifact? That's probably only like one or two cards, huh?
Exodus?
Yeah.
That is...
It's got like
it's
85,000
set
reprints.
with colored mana symbols. With colored expansion symbols
correct.
for the
Mind
rarity.
Stone.
That's Weatherlight.
Is it the thing that you sack to give your creatures flying?
No. Corbin Mindstone is a common from
Come on,
Weatherlight.
man.
So
That's all the old sets are the same.
That's racist?
it's still the wrong set, though.
No.
It
Wait a minute.
is a
Oh, yeah.
zero
the
mana
spell.
artifact.
Yeah. I was thinking that. Yeah, I kept thinking
Spell
of the
book.
thing that has Karn on it and that gives your whatever. Oh, Sky Shaper.
I have no idea what that card is.
I didn't realize Spellbook was from Exodus, to be honest.
It was originally from Exit.
I was probably first introduced to that card in 2000 in M10.
I'm not a
M10,
nerd,
sorry,
but
2000
I think the
10th edition.
the flavor text on Exodus Spellbook is pretty cool.
Everything the wise woman learned, she wrote in a book, and when the pages were black with ink, she took white ink and began again.
Just
Karn
get a new
Silver
book.
Golem. That's a really bad way to retain information in
Just
a book.
get a
if you
new
just
book.
Write over what you just wrote.
Just spell books. It's 0 mana. Just get another one. You can't even say cost is a factor. It's 0 mana. Just go get a new book, you idiot.
She's not so wise if she's like, oh yeah, I just finished all this. I finished my life manifesto. Now time to write over it. Corbin, what's the 3-letter set code for Exodus?
E
Okay.
Good guess.
XD.
No. It's EXO.
How?
EXO?
Which one of you is more confident in?
I'm very.
Because I don't want to look it up when I'm
very
putting it in the
confident
spreadsheet.
It's EXO.
I'll trust Jason.
Let's find out. I'm looking it up. It is EXO. I actually thought DJ was going for a trick question there. So I was like, he can't be EXO.
I don't like getting fact checked.
I was trick questioning you last week when I asked about Odyssey when that one was
Oh, I
ODY.
knew that one, yeah.
Do you know what Mirrodin is?
MIR.
No. Nope.
Nope.
It's
That's
MRN.
Mirage.
Oh,
No, it's
MRD.
MRD. Yep.
all right.
Merit, as
Rivals,
the French would say.
Rivals of Ixalan, Black Uncommon.
Rivals. Is it Pitiless Blunderer? Because that was my pick last week.
Yeah, that was his
rip.
last week.
Okay.
I nailed
Hold
it.
up, I got a better one. Rivals of Ixalan.
I nailed your pick so hard I traveled back in time.
Rivals of Ixalan, Red Uncommon.
Is it the Goblin?
No. Wily Goblin? No.
Yeah. It's not Wily Goblin.
I was gonna say Fanatical Firebrand.
Fanatical Firebrand is also not it.
Wow, there's a third red uncommon from that set? That's a pick? That seems...
Also, what DJ said is a common.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure. I thought you thought that your card was a common.
Nope.
So
Rivals of Ixalan, Red Uncommon. Card is more expensive.
Because if you thought that
More expensive than Piteous Plunderer. In fact, the second most expensive uncommon in the set.
Shake the Foundation?
No, that's a reasonable guess, though. This card I'm talking about even hit $2 during a brief time when Feather was an extremely good Sander deck.
Oh, okay. So it's Sea Red?
Oh no, it's the one that deals 2 to your creature.
Yeah,
and
it's
4 to
Reckless
theirs.
Rage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was very good. Was very good in Feather because you could target the majority of the creatures in your deck, but it was just 1 mana repeated removal in your Feather deck.
That seems good.
Yeah, card is 50 cents market, 75 cents median. I mean, it's a very solid pick.
Wow, that's
Once they ban Oko, Feather might actually be a deck again.
I would like that because Feather's really boring in EDH, but like I like to do the stuff that I hate to do in EDH in 60
In
card form.
standard?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm
All
not
right, what's
trying
yours,
to.
Jason?
I hate people that win on turn 3 in EDH, and then I want to win on turn 3 in every other format. So
Because EDH, you have a 75% theory. EDH isn't supposed to be a
there's no
competitive spike format.
75%. It's like, well, I was just trying to have a fun game. It's like, this is a tournament, you dipshit. What are you doing? I just want everyone to have fun. I'm playing Group Hug. You're playing Group Hug in Modern. I turned my own thing into an elk.
Some people play group hug in Modern. It's called taking turns. You play Howling Mine.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
That's a one-sided.
No, dictate is the one-sided one. Ally mine, you actually have to give them a card first. You almost always just
Not if you play Urza.
what? No one plays Ally mine in Urza though.
Do you mean the Planeswalker that makes they can't draw extra cards?
Arsa, is that what you're talking? What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying you play Urza and you're taking turns deck to.
Oh, because you can tap it. That's the tech. Actually, not that it matters because I think Modern's kind of. I'm not gonna say Modern's a dead format, but Modern is very much like Legacy. It's no longer the thing that like Pioneer is going to take over Modern's throne as the format you brew for and the format new players try to graduate into.
We always knew that.
We knew it was going to happen, but so I say it makes Modern less financially relevant, is what it does. Especially since we're going to see more Premier events be Pioneer instead of Modern. Anyways,
which is
taking
too bad
turns
because
is
Modern's a superior format. But I realize I said that about Legacy with respect to Modern.
Yeah.
Like Modern's more financially relevant than Legacy, but Legacy is a better format. So
I don't know that Modern's a better format than Pioneer. Modern is pretty bad. Like I've noticed this a lot recording mine in Modern recently. It's just
my opinion.
The format's
is, pre-Modern Horizons. Post-Modern Horizons, I bet
That's
Modern
fair.
is pretty goddamn miserable.
Since War, I mean, it's been coming for the last few years, but since War of the Spark particularly, and Modern Horizons is a big part of it, right? Everything in the format has been cranked up in power level, which was always going to happen, but it was just such a shot in the arm. It's really hard to brew. It's really hard for me to play mining Modern decks in Modern now because I'm trying to have fun with dorky decks. I'm like, my deck can win on turn 4 if everything goes right. And like 75% of my opponents are just playing a deck that always wins on turn 4. It's really hard for you to brew in the format and for your bad deck to make an impact because the format has basically graduated to be like Legacy, where the top tier of powerful cards and strategies, even if the decks aren't all the same, are just so head and shoulders above everything else. You can show up to a Legacy tournament and play whatever you want and do reasonable, but Team or Delver is still the best deck or whatever, right? Modern's kind of the same way. It's just a lot harder to dirtle around and do silly stuff. So I think as a result, it's much less financially relevant because there's not new decks breaking out every other week like there were 3 years ago or whatever, And that's not bad necessarily. That's just a natural, that the format was always going to get there eventually. But it does make it less financially relevant. Anyways, the point is Blue-Red Turns with Fires of Invention is actually really good in Modern now.
That's silly.
I mean, it's pretty sweet. You get to play Savor the Moment. You play Fires and play Savor the Moment, which is an extra turn for 3 mana.
Yeah.
But your lands don't untap.
But it doesn't matter.
Which doesn't really matter. Yeah. So it's pretty neat.
Wow, you got Nexus, Savor the Moment, and Time Warp all legal in?
Oh yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. And now the deck, and now you have, you also now have Mystic Sanctuary. So you get to Cryptic Command Mystic Sanctuary loops or Mystic Sanctuary just to buy back a Time Warp.
How many mistakes can you cram into one set?
One 6-month period? The answer is a lot.
Hey, Once Upon a Time is ruined every format, but it hasn't ruined Pauper. Like, don't worry, we got you covered. we absolutely have a plan on how we can ruin Pauper forever also. And they're like, oh, thank God.
Toby Hinkie released on Channel Fireball this week. You should go check it out. The metagame and win rates from GP Atlanta, the last Legacy GP. Spoilers, it was Ren and 6. So...
Ren and 6 makes it so I can't play my favorite card.
Narset, Ren and 6, Teferi, this is your format. Every single format in Magic has gotten worse this year since War of the Spark.
Not Cube.
That's true.
Because you just don't put any cards from Modern Horizons.
In Alpha, Black Lotus was turned into an elk and attacked for lethal in the Vintage Championship.
Yeah, I saw that on Reddit.
Yep. So, that's where we're at.
Was it Alpha?
Whatever, man. I think it was.
I think it was
Beta Lotus. A Beta Lotus got turned into an elk and attacked for lethal in the finals of the Vintage Championship.
If you are a flower
Welcome to
and
Oko
you
the
grow
Gathering.
elk legs and beat the shit out of somebody, you're an alpha.
The only thing...
I realize that's a discredited theory, but like it's...
The only thing that makes
giving
it bearable...
someone 3 mana and going away as a beta move.
The the Oko elk memes are the only thing that's made the last month and a half of Magic bearable.
I know. I made
I've
a
got a
really
spicy
good
one that I'm
meme,
gonna
and
post in
somebody turned
Richmond.
it into an elk meme with their Oko. I was like, oh, cool.
It's got to the point where I just don't play with the card. I don't play against the card, and I'll do other things with my life, and I'll enjoy the memes.
No one has resolved an Oko and an EDH game against me so far. So
Speaking of Oko and elks, Epstein didn't kill himself.
that meme officially is over. But when Corbin
I assume you saw that clip on Fox News,
yeah,
Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
the
great.
guy was like, if you're gonna get a German Shepherd, definitely get a finished one from a breeder. And Epstein didn't kill himself.
It's so good. All right. Back to the Magic. Did we do Jason's Breaking Bulk?
Nope.
All right, let's hear it.
We went from Reckless Rage to Feather to Oko
To OJ.
to Epstein didn't
From
kill
Oko
himself.
to OJ. All right.
That's the
Mine
name
is
of the
a-
episode.
Betrayers of Kamigawa white card.
Tallowisp.
No, I changed my mind. Mine is a Cold Snap white card. Tallowisp was my backup in case somebody else did this. Did anybody do a Cold Snap white creature recently?
Jurg didn't grunt.
I highly doubt it.
Cold Snap white creature.
The grunt with cumulative upkeep.
Nope, not Jotun Grunt because that was reprinted, and why would that be a pick?
Why would it be reprinted? It's a better question.
It was in the it was in the
It was in a conspiracy or
the
something.
Zedger deck.
Sure, whatever. A white creature from Cold Snap. Huh?
You heard me correctly.
I'm just trying to think this one through. What's the
Are you
rarity?
trying to think it through, or do I hear you typing? It's uncommon.
You hear me clicking cookies. It's an uncommon.
The artist is Alex Horley or
That doesn't
Landelli
help.
because
That doesn't
DJ
help.
says that sometimes. You don't know Alex Horley or Landelli's art?
Is it a martyr? It's not.
It's not Martyr.
No, all the Martyr Cycle is common.
You
You
stupid
idiot.
Okay.
That's why I didn't say that.
Okay.
You should say the artist
No,
every time you do a Breaking Bulk pick.
Clap emoji.
Thanks.
I don't
know the answer to this.
It
either.
is Wall of Shareds.
Oh yeah, that's
Wall
duh.
of Shareds, huh?
Wall of Shareds is very expensive. It is a
Yeah.
group hug card. It is a 1/8 wall, so it's got a big butt for those Arcades decks, which is why I think it initially
That's got to be
spiked
why
in
it's
July.
worth money.
Yeah, it went from like $2 to $7, and it's back down to like $3.50. But for a while
reasonable
there,
price.
this card was unreasonable. This is just it's a group hug. An opponent gains 1 life, cumulative upkeep.
That's cool.
Yeah, this is just a cool card. It's a 1/8 flying defender for 2 mana. So like, imagine trying to swing through that. So
That's a card that scales nicely. That is an example of good Magic design, where a card means one thing in a 1v1 game and another thing in a multiplayer
It's
game.
cool on a lot of axes. You know, it's got 8 power when
Yeah.
you're swinging with it. It's a 2
Yep.
mana big old wall. When your opponent's
Good.
life total doesn't matter because you're milling them out or whatever, and it's
Good
like
with
a
Wall of
group hug
Reverence.
card, and it's just a cool card.
Yep. When I was I made a Selenia deck a while ago, and the theme is like black-white life management shenanigans. So it has like near-death experience, Angel's Grace, Ad Nauseum, Repay in Kind, all the Mirror Universe, and all that stuff. But the original concept for the deck was actually Mardu, because I wanted to put Reign of Gore and Wall of Shards in the
Players
same deck.
can't gain life. Yeah, nice.
No, Rainagor's the
Oh,
one
is
where
they
if
lose
they
life
gain
equal
life
to the
and
number
said
of
they
life they-
lose
oh.
life.
Yeah, they lose life.
Ooh,
It's
that's nasty.
well, it's Reign of Gore is technically, I think it's when they gain life, they lose double. I think is
Sure.
the
Well,
wording of
if
that
only
card.
we had access to the World Wide Web and we could look this up. Hey, look at me. I'm Corbin. I'm doing Breaking Bulk right now.
Must click cookie. I didn't know the answer. I clearly wasn't looking it
loses that
up.
much life instead. You're right. No, it's loses that
Yeah.
much life instead.
Yeah,
you're
no,
right.
I'm right.
And
I don't know
Renegor
what-
is Yeah.
I can't name you what cards are breaking bulk, but I sure know what they do when you give me a name. As long as they are played in a deck and I've typed them into a deck list at some point.
I know any card unless it's one of the 100 cards playable in the formats I pay attention to.
I'm actually moderately sad. Like, one of the things with coverage these days is that we are finally moving into the future, and deck lists are all online at GPs, and I can even do a metagame breakdown using smart machine learning type stuff, etc. But you don't learn how to spell every card the way you do when you're typing up every deck list. Just saying. Worthwhile trade-off, but still just a tiny bit sad.
Okay.
Okay. All right, you guys want to do some pick of the week?
Because I'm doing a cookie clicking frenzy and I didn't want that on the mic, but you know what? I think
that's why you muted it. Okay.
I think our listeners should know that like we're back on our bullshit. We're playing Cookie Clicker again. And right now I'm furiously clicking because I got 15 seconds of click frenzy and okay, it's done. I'm sorry.
Jason, you really got to spend the 77 trillion to get double the time on your cookies, on your golden cookies.
Well, that'll be a thing that comes up. Corbin thinks he's better than me because I got a new computer on Wednesday and I've only been playing since Thursday. He's been playing since Monday. And he's kind of lapping.
I'm about to leave for a week. I don't think there's a black screen video long enough on YouTube to get me through a week.
Well, you're going to miss a lot of golden cookies.
You're going to be so far ahead of me by the time I get back.
Well,
just have your wife do it.
She's coming with me on the trip. So it's going to be a real problem. I do have somebody come in to let the dogs out twice a day. I could ask them to spend my money.
Oh, really?
Put on a new...
Hey, who's doing that for you? Who's letting the dogs out? Who?
No.
Who? Is that a boomer thing to say?
Is that a boomer thing to say?
Do millennials not get
Jason,
Baja Men references?
If you have to ask.
Don't you remember the Baja Men? They just came out with that song. Oh no, that was 1999, wasn't it? Oh no. That was a long time ago.
It was not 1999.
All around me are
Yeah, I don't think it was 1999.
Well, let's look it up.
With the World Wide Web as our boomer
I typed
friend
in
calls
Who
it.
Let, and it auto-completed Who Let the Dogs
That's
Out.
because it's listening to you. It was 2000. Here's how I knew that. And this, because one of the radio stations in Oklahoma, the Sooners, OU, won a national championship in the year 2000. And they did a cover thing called Who Let the Sooners Out. And
oh no.
to this day, every time I hear that song, or even anything that all I can think about and hear in my head is that incredibly stupid "Who Let the Sooners Out" parody. It's it's almost as bad as listening to "Who Let the Dogs Out."
I think any parody of anything is super duper embarrassing.
Well, what about Weird Al?
That's not a fan made parody thing. That's like like the one dude who gets away with it.
Yeah.
But it's someone's like, what if we want to legalize marijuana, but we did it to the tune of Thrift Shop?
Well, I can't listen to Piano Man without
vomiting. That's the worst song ever.
I was gonna go with Spin Me a Web, Spider-Man. That was like that Weird Al album came out when Weird Al was like at the height of his popularity, and I was at the perfect age to do nothing but listen to Weird Al.
He was never not at the height of his popularity. I thought Amish Paradise was like his peak, right?
Yeah, but see, I wasn't old enough for that, right? So I got the next album. So the songs have been ruined for me.
What was that? Running with Scissors? Running with Scissors was the one after the album Amish Paradise was on.
Maybe. I mean, it's the one with the Avril Lavigne parody of Complicated.
No,
that's the one with the American Pie parody set to episode 1.
That's 2 albums
Star
after.
Wars. Oh, sure. But like I said, I wasn't old enough for that one, right? So
why is everything on this cast determined to make me feel old tonight? I'm 35. I'm not that. I realize I'm not young anymore. I'm not.
Look, I'm aware of Amish Paradise. Well, Amish Paradise is the same way.
That was 1996. That was before DJ was born.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that.
I was born in 94.
I think about that song too, when I think about that too, instead of Gangsta Paradise, but like, there was just the one summer at summer camp where that's all we listened to. That weird. So there's just a handful of songs that have just been for the rest of my life completely ruined, and Who Let the Dogs Out is one of them.
Well, that song was never great to begin with.
Anyways, let's do pick of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
What do you got?
I'll go first. This card is not my usual pick, which is typically predicated on like EDH. Like, yeah, Kenrith is really super popular this week for some reason. Top 5 on EDH Rec, I'll just do this as a service for you. Korvald's number 1, which is a little surprising because Alela was number 1 3 weeks in a row. Alela sunk to number 2. So this is the Brawl decks. We got 3 Brawl decks in the top 6. It's crazy. Those Brawl decks are nuts.
Those cards are stupid.
My friend John smashed me with a Corval deck. I underestimated the power level of that card when I
everything
first read
you
it.
sack. So like you crack a strip mine, you get a 1/1 counter and draw a card.
He played Squandered Resources, then killed us all in the same turn. I was like, yeah, that works.
You can play. It's dumb.
He like squandered resources, then did a bunch of stuff, then Splendid Reclamation, and then
it's real good. It's in the sack and stuff colors. I brewed on Cool Stuff Inc. this week. You can check out the article on Thursday. I did it where I would do a ton of threat effects and sack their stuff to get counters, and deprive them of creatures plus beat them with them. I think that's fun. Alel is number 2. Golos number 3. Golos is a card that just like got banned out of standard, but it's a real popular EDH deck because it's 5 colors. In 4th place is another 5-color deck, which is Kenrith, and Yarok is number 5. So that knocked Chulian out of the top 5. And Sir Gwyn is all the way down to 10th place. So it's some older stuff. Lord Windgrace, Muldrotha, Kess, all in the top 10. Knocked out some newer stuff like Kirik, Torban, Thane of Red Fell, and Angia Falconwrath. All that stuff got knocked out of the top 10. So right now, Kenrith is the deck I'm looking at right now because it's 5-color good stuff, and it's got Hearthstone was my pick last week. I really like Training Ground and Biomancer's Familiar and all the stuff that makes that deck better. So typically I would pick an EDH pick. But this week, actually, something they said in the article that we waited around for the longest lunch in history.
Okay.
They kind of said, hey, we didn't want to ban Nykthos because we think Nykthos is more interesting than just the mono green deck. So we banned some stuff from the green deck, which says, hey, Nykthos is basically safe. So I think some people were like, oh, they're going to do a ban every Monday. The fact that they mentioned Nykthos by name as a card they would like to keep around says to me Nykthos is safe. So I like that in foil and non-foil. I'm not picky. I think even at $20 buy-in, I think it's got upward trajectory. I think that's a $30 card in non-foil, and I think the foils are basically boundless at this point. It's an EDH staple. Nykthos is an insane card. It's unfair. It's going to be super hard to reprint, and they basically said they're not going to ban it in Pioneer, barring every deck being Devotion, which I don't see happening because Planeswalkers aren't great with Nykthos, and Pioneer seems to be a Planeswalkery format. So I think everybody thinks Nykthos is super safe, and I would be real surprised if it's not a $30 card in like 7 days. So there you go. That was a lot of talking about things that weren't my pick to get to my pick, but you know what? Screw it. Every week I should tell you about the top 5 decks on EDH Rec at the very least.
I agree.
Because that's good information for you to know, and maybe you don't care.
Yeah.
My pick of the week is a Leyline from M20.
Is it Leyline of Anticipation?
Yeah, it's the blue
Yeah.
one, not the green one. Surprise!
Obviously.
Well, the green one was a good pick until it wasn't.
That's true.
It was a good pick until 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is lunchtime Pacific.
Hey man, you know what? I didn't even eat lunch today, so like if it had been up to me to write that article, I wouldn't have even done it. So good on Blake for burning the noontime oil to get that written.
Leyline of Anticipation was originally like $18 trillion before it got reprinted. Then it got reprinted. Now it's cheap. It is one of the cheaper cards in core set 2020. Also, follow Ben Blywis on Star City's account on Twitter. He's the general manager for their all their business buying and selling operations. He's like the higher up guy there. He's been posting some really crazy sales.
Yeah,
this
his
past...
get this off my desk sales are
I
insane.
saw those boxes. Yeah.
So follow those. He does hashtag get this off my desk every day, which is a lot more obscure stuff like heavily played Portuguese signed cards and whatever. But there are deals worth keeping your finger on the pulse of, and $60 core set boxes are not my thing, but they may be worth it to you if you want to do.
He's
some
at
cheap
Star
drafts.
City Ben on Twitter, and he's such a good follow. I still follow him even though he's not following me back, and I would not give any of you that courtesy.
Nice. All right. I've been thinking a lot about this one, and I'm curious. I don't know if it's going to work out, and I'm not sure how I want to go about this, but I think that the cycling lands from Mom and Cat have upside. I think that they're going to find their way into Pioneer. The one that is obviously worth the most right now is Fetid Pools, which is $2. But the blue-white one is only 50 cents, which is incredibly cheap.
That's not correct.
That one was in an event deck. It was a 4 of a
I agree. There's a reason why it's cheaper. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it was in the approach deck.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if I want my pick to be just like cycling lands from Mom and Cat in general, or if I want to go with the blue-white one. But it just seems to me that
cycling lands from Amaket is a real Ryan Bouchard pick of the week.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out if it should be more distinct. But I do think that the blue-white one is the most likely to see heavy play in Pioneer because it's your Supreme Verdict colors. And as the format gets figured out, the one thing that's true right now is that it is a pretty heavily dominated by Planeswalkers format. So I also like stuff like Detention Sphere at $2, but I think Irrigated Farmland at 50 cents and Cycling Lands in general from the set are going to find a place in Pioneer, especially in control decks, as the format gets to a place where control decks can thrive, which may be 6 months from now, maybe a year from now, right? So, but I think that Irrigated Farmland at 50 cents, which is basically bulk rare, it's just got to have it has to have playability upside, if not financial upside over the long term. But really, I think all of them are $2 or less. And Amonkhet seems like it wasn't very long ago. And I mean, really it wasn't. But a couple years from, these are cards you're going to be able to find now easily, throw them in your closet. And a year from now, all of a sudden, Amonkhet will be 3 or 4 years in the rear view. And we'll have a bunch of Pioneer players in a settled metagame. And someone's control deck's going to win an event with 2 to 3 cycling lands in it. So that's what I like this week. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. Thank you for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. Remember to check out our sponsor channel, Fireball. They've got a buy list bonus going on. Lots of great content. Also, Command Fest happened. That was pretty neat. So we've got a lot of great stuff going on there. I'll be at the Mythic Championship and gone probably next week. So follow that to see all the Okos you could ever dream of in Standard, or hopefully something will rise up to beat it. Until then, we'll see you next week.